Tell the men the cavalry's arrived, as they say in the Dawn of War computer games, because today I'm going to be having a look at my collection of Leman Russ battle tanks. And I'm going to be starting here with these tanks from my 24th Praetorian regiment collection. The 24th Praetorian are the main regiments that I've collected over the years, and it's perhaps fitting that I've got more tanks painted up to be part of their regiment than I have for any of the others in my collection. I'm starting with my first battle company, which consists of standard Leman Russes with battle cannons in their turrets, and all have the side sponsons fitted. And amongst this company is this tank here, which is the first Leman Russ tank I bought way back in the days of 2nd edition, and it was just a week or two after the Praetorian 24th box set had come out. And you'll notice that all of the tanks in this company are of this vintage of kit. And in fact, every single one of my current Praetorian 24th battle tanks is also of this type of kit. It is the kit that I much prefer to the newer one in almost every circumstance. So I searched high and low after the kit was discontinued to try and find others from various second-hand sources. Going on to my second company, and again this is another battle company consisting of battle cannons, but this is what I refer to as my light company, because the tanks in this unit do not have the side sponsons fitted to any of them. They just have the hull mounted weapon and the turret mounted battle cannon. After this company though, I start moving on to some of the more the variants with different turret weapons, and I'm going to start with my Vanquisher cannon armed units. Again, I've a full company of just Leman Russ Vanquishers, proper tank hunters here, and I upgraded the models for these tanks using the hull plates here. These come from Chimera kits. I started doing that on the first couple of Vanquishers I got before actual track guards were released on the later tank accessory sprue, and so to keep the company looking in a uniform appearance, I decided to repeat the pattern even after those parts became available. The fourth company for my 24th Praetorian tank regiment is a siege company, and most of the tanks in this company are demolishers, like the one you see here as the command tank. I have 2 squadrons of them, one of which has the older pattern metal demolisher cannon that lacked the extra armour for the turret, but the third squadron is made up of Leman Russ Eradicators, and because the Eradicator Nova cannon didn't come out until the release of the new plastic kit, I had to take the parts from that kit for the Nova cannon itself, and then converted the older pattern turret to take them. Moving on, I've got something lighter again, because this is now my assault company, where the turrets have all been fitted with lighter weight weapons, the command tank, and the first squadron are Leman Russ Exterminators with their twin-linked autocannons. Then I have a squadron of Conquerors, a Legends unit now, never produced in plastic and no longer available from Forge World. And then a Punisher squadron, where again I have converted the old turrets to take a weapon from the newer kits. And my final 24th Praetorian company is my Executioner company. So here again I have had to convert the older kit to take a newer weapon, and I have a command tank and a commissar tank, followed by 2 squadrons of executioners, one of which lacks the sponsons, and then finally a Leman Russ destroyer squadron which again, I believe this is now a Legends unit, never produced in plastic and no longer available from Forge World. I'm now moving on to the 78th Praetorian tanks. I have a single company of tanks for this regiment, and when I created the infantry for this part of my collection, I took Imperial Guard plastics and I swapped the heads for third-party heads that had the steel helmets that matched the types worn by British and Commonwealth troops during World War I and World War II. And in keeping with this, I've modified a lot of the tanks in this company to represent what were called Hobart's funnies, the customised tanks used at D-Day for very specific purposes, such as breaking through fortifications or clearing minefields. So I have a pair of Leman Russ Vanquishers that have mine-clearing flails. A third Leman Russ Vanquisher to round out that squadron is fitted with a more conventional dozer blade. Then on the regular Leman Russ squadron, one is fitted with a large demolition charge. One has deployable skirts, which on the tank this is based off, it turned it into an amphibious tank, the Sherman DD, I believe it was called, for duplex drive. They were designed to be released just offshore and would swim until they reached the beaches. And then I have one that is fitted with a trench crossing for scenes. This modification, in fact, dates back, I believe, to World War I, where some of the first tanks were fitted with large bundles of wood and pipes that could just be dropped into trenches to allow the tanks to drive right over them. And then to round out the company, I have a trio of Leman Russ demolishers at the back. I didn't think they needed any extra modification to make them look like any of Hobart's funnies. Just having a big siege cannon on the turret was good enough. Again, all of this company are of the older style kit. I'm pretty sure I actually put all of these together while that was still available. Moving on, we get to my company of squat tanks, and here of course we go to the newer pattern kit, but I modified it by swapping the track sections for those from a Chimera, which made it shorter, and I added spaced armour plating at the side, which made it fatter. So short fat Leman Russes for short fat soldiers. And this is actually the one occasion where I really do like the newer kit over the previous one. And I have created a full company with various weapons fits, all of them modified in exactly the same way. Lower profile track sections, spaced armour plating, and I also gave them all track guards to give them a far more heavily armoured and tougher appearance, which I think is very befitting for squats. I am now at the point where I don't have complete companies of tanks to show you, but I do have a full squadron here of Leman Russes, and if you've seen some of my older videos, you may recognise them because these are scratch-built Leman Russes, and they are designed to look like the original epic scale model, just scaled up to Warhammer 40,000 scale. And I like to think this is the sort of model that would have been available if the Leman Russ tank had been available in the Rogue Trader years. So when I built these out of plastic card, I of course used some spare parts as well. If I was using Games Workshop parts, I tried to limit myself to those that would have been available during that era. So they have these Rogue Trader vintage smoke dischargers. All of these will have come from Rhino kits. I also managed to get a spare dozer blade from the original Land Raider kit. And the tank commander himself comes from the original Imperial Guard plastic set that was released about the time I was getting into Warhammer 40,000, although of course I didn't actually start collecting Imperial Guard until some time later. Moving on, we have two tanks for a new project, and this is the 1st Sigmar Regiment, And from the tank commander coming from the Age of Sigmar steam tank kit, you can perhaps guess that I'm going to be using fantasy figures for that regiment. And these are largely standard Leman Russes. Just to decorate them a bit, I've put on a few parts from fantasy kits, just to make it look like these have been delivered from the Adeptus Mechanicus to the inhabitants of a far more primitive world. And to reflect that, I've left the tanks in the Mechanicum standard grey paint, because these simple people would not want to desecrate the tanks by repainting them entirely. Then I have 2 more tanks for another upcoming Imperial Guard project, and again the figure in the turret gives away the idea behind this regiment. It is a Necromunda Escher, so these 2 tanks are going to be from a Necromundan regiment, and the additional armour I have added is sort of cage armour, which I've seen images of this sort of protection on modern fighting vehicles, and decided to see how it would look when applied to some of my Warhammer 40,000 models. Now though, we have a squadron of tanks that aren't Imperial. These 3 Leman Russes are for a Traitor Guard regiment that I planned to build a long time ago. As you see, when the original kit was available, I built the tanks, never built the regiment though. So these represent pretty much all of that idea that I did. I did also do a basilisk made from the old Chaos Dwarf Hell Cannon, but that's not going to be part of this video. And now I'm going to move on to the oddballs of the collection. A lot of these are conversions, which when I created them, I could use them in more informal games of Warhammer 40,000, because there were rules for either entirely inventing your own vehicles or producing variants on those that already existed. And these first 2 I call the Leman Russ Cerberus, and they are based after the old Churchill crocodile tank of World War II. That replaced the Hull machine gun with a flamethrower and had fuel tanks in a trailer at the back. So what I did was I took the standard Leman Russ kit, then I took metal parts from a Hellhound and I gave it the Inferno cannon in place of the Hull-mounted las cannon or heavy bolter. And the 2 fuel tanks were mounted on a scratch-built trailer behind the vehicle. These 2 are, well, this one is also protected by some explosive reactive armour. It's made from PCB feet. I have another tank in my regular forces that is also protected in the same way. This one's just been left to its standard armour protection though. The next 3 I call the Leman Russ Lightning. When I first created these, I called them the Leman Russ Annihilator. I took the Annihilator turrets from Predator tanks and just placed them onto the hulls of Leman Russes. I'll lift this up and you see it just fit in. That's because these are the older kit again, and the turrets were all compatible, a compatibility that was lost when Games Workshop moved on to the new kit. Now, the reason I now call them the Lightning instead of the Annihilator is that Forge World produced a Leman Russ Annihilator turret, and all they did was change the turret weapons. However, as you can see here, I also changed the hull-mounted weapons, so they were entirely lasers as well. So that's why I went for Leman Russ Lightning. And the final 2 tanks are the first 2 of the new style kit that I got, and I was most disappointed when I did. I have an Executioner with its plasma cannon in the turret and plasma cannons in the sponsons. That is just how the kit came. For this Eradicator though, the Eradicator wasn't available at that time. It was just the Demolisher kit came with the Punisher, the Executioner or the Demolisher. You had to wait for the standard kit to get the Eradicator. So I took the weapon from a Baneblade that I had spare, and I used that to build an Eradicator Nova Cannon into this turret. However, because these are the newer kits that I just really don't like as much, they don't fit with the rest of my 24th Praetorian, I never bothered updating them when I did the repainting of my collection. And as I so often do, I'm going to end with my grandiose shot of the entire collection together. There you have 99 Leman Russ battle tanks. This video isn't called 99 Leman Russes though, it's called 100 Leman Russes. So I need to show you a 100th Leman Russ. Quite possibly one of the greatest Leman Russes ever, and in fact the first Warhammer 40,000 scale Leman Russ that Games Workshop ever produced. Here he is. Thanks for watching. Bye.